You saved another topic in vidIQ last night and then just sat there, paralyzed by a conversation that hasn't happened yet. You feel like you've lost the plot before anyone even knows it exists. But your brain isn't warning you about your friends. Your brain is running a threat drill for a danger that hasn't happened and almost certainly never will. Every week you stay in that imaginary conversation, your channel sits at 0 videos, 0 data, 0 momentum. What stops that is already here, but it is not what you think. Here is what you have told yourself is happening. You are being sensible. You are thinking it through. You are just not quite ready because the idea is not polished enough yet, and you do not want to look stupid. And honestly, it is probably better to wait until you have something real to show. That sounds reasonable. It sounds like patience. But here is the thing. You have already picked a niche. You have probably already poked around in vidIQ, maybe saved a few topic ideas that actually looked promising. You are not waiting for information. You are waiting for the imaginary version of your mate to stop pulling that face. And that face is never going away. You have invented a courtroom where people who have not heard a single word about your channel are already delivering a verdict. The jury is made up of people who are, right now, thinking about their own problems, their own mortgage, their own slightly embarrassing thing they want to do but won't start either. And every week you spend waiting is another week your channel has 0 subscribers, 0 videos, and 0 chance of becoming the thing you actually want it to be. Does any part of you recognize that you are hiding from a conversation that has never actually happened? And if you already know that, why are you still waiting? There is a name for what your brain is doing to you. It is called affective forecasting error, and it works like this. Your brain does not just worry about the future, it simulates it. It builds a full scene with lighting and dialogue and the exact expression on your mate's face when you tell them you are making AI voiceover videos about obscure topics for a channel nobody knows about yet. And this is the part that is quietly costing you everything. And here is the part that should bother you. Your brain then takes that scene, the one it wrote, directed, and cast entirely by itself, and treats it as real evidence about what will actually happen. Not imagination, evidence. Harvard psychologist Daniel Gilbert showed that you consistently mispredict how future events will feel, and your brain responds to those mispredictions as though they are facts. That alone should make you deeply uncomfortable about what comes next. You show the same error at the same intensity even after decades of successful work. The simulation feels so convincing that your threat detection system, the same one that kept your ancestors alive in small tribes where being cast out meant dying, fires with the same urgency it would if the danger were real. That is why you can spend 40 minutes tweaking a channel name for a video you have not filmed yet, but cannot open a blank document and write one sentence. The threat feels survival level. Except none of it has happened. By the end of this video, you will have something concrete that your brain cannot use that simulation against. There are 3 specific tools that do exactly that, and they come from peer-reviewed research, not productivity culture. The first tool is called the Spotlight Collapse, and it comes from research by Thomas Gilovich at Cornell University in 2000. Here is what Gilovich found. What it reveals about your brain is harder to dismiss than you want. He ran a series of experiments where he had people do something mildly embarrassing. Wear a cringy t-shirt into a room full of strangers, say the wrong thing in a meeting, and then ask them to estimate how many people in that room actually noticed. The person wearing the shirt was convinced that basically everyone clocked it. The actual number was roughly half that. Every single time, across every version of the study, people thought far more eyes were on them than there were. The spotlight you feel burning on you exists almost entirely in your own head. And the implications for what you are doing right now are not small. Here is how you use this today. Get a piece of paper, not a note on your phone, actual paper, and write out the exact scene your brain keeps playing. Who is in the room? What they say? What their face looks like when you tell them about the channel? Do not skip this step. It is where the self-deception becomes visible. Get it out of your head and onto the page. Then write one sentence answering this question. What were you thinking about last Thursday at 7 p.m.? You cannot remember, can you? You have no idea what your friends were doing, thinking, or worrying about at that exact moment. That gap in your memory is the entire argument, and it destroys the simulation. Neither do they about you. Sit with that asymmetry for 5 minutes and write one sentence about what the people in that imagined scene are actually thinking about right now. It is not you. That alone takes the heat out of the simulation. But it does not fix the second problem, which is not just that you think more people are watching than actually are. It is that you are also wildly wrong about how bad it would feel if they were. But fixing the audience size is not enough. There is a second, uglier problem. The second tool is called the Affective Forecast Audit, and it comes from research by Timothy Wilson and Daniel Gilbert, published in 2003. Here is what they found. Wilson, at the University of Virginia, and Gilbert at Harvard, spent years studying how accurately people predict their own future feelings. What they discovered is that you are not just bad at predicting how others will react, you are systematically wrong about how terrible it will actually feel if something embarrassing happens. People consistently predicted that rejection, public awkwardness, social failure would devastate them for days. The actual emotional hit? Gone far faster than anyone expected, every time. They called it impact bias. Your brain inflates both the intensity and the staying power of the bad feeling before it happens, which means the dread is almost always worse than the event itself. Here is how you use this today, and notice this is doing something the first tool could not. The first technique corrected who is watching. Pay close attention here because this is the part most people refuse to look at. This one corrects what it would actually cost you. Get a piece of paper and write down 3 things from the last 2 years that you predicted would be socially catastrophic. A presentation that went badly, something you said in the wrong room, a decision someone questioned out loud. Rate how bad the actual outcome felt on a scale of 1 to 10. Then write your original fear rating next to it. Look at the gap. That gap is exactly what your brain is currently doing to the imagined YouTube conversation. It is not a prediction. It is an inflation. You now have 2 tools, one that shrinks the audience watching, one that shrinks the damage of being seen. But neither of them solves the question of how to actually begin while the fear is still present. This is the part the first 2 tools cannot reach, and it is the most dangerous gap. The third tool is called the Stealth Launch Protocol, and you should know the research behind it comes from Edward Deasy and Richard Ryan at the University of Rochester, who first published their findings in 1985 and built on them again in 2000. What you need to understand is surprisingly simple when you hear it out loud. What they found should change the way you understand every creative decision you have stalled on. When you work without anyone watching or judging, you last longer and produce better work than when you feel observed and evaluated. Not a little better for you, consistently, measurably better for you. The external gaze, even an imagined one, changes what you make and whether you keep going. When you remove it, something shifts. You stop performing and start building. So here is what you do today. You make a decision that your first 3 videos belong to a pre-launch phase. Not a secret you are keeping out of shame, your professional hold, exactly the way you would beta test before announcing. This distinction matters more than it sounds. Get it wrong and the fear returns immediately. No posting about it, no floating the idea at dinner, no soft launching the concept to someone whose reaction you are already rehearsing in your head. Write this down somewhere you work. Pre-launch phase. Not secret, just not public yet. That card is not your permission to hide. It is your permission to build without the weight of an audience you have not earned yet standing over your shoulder before you have made anything worth showing. The first tool told you the audience in your head is smaller than you think. But knowing that is still not the same as being someone who actually starts. The second told you the damage would be lighter than you fear. This one removes the audience from the room entirely, so the work can actually begin. When you apply all three, you are no longer someone waiting to feel ready. You are someone who builds anyway. That is who you are now. You have the tools now, and you know why the old pattern kept running. It was never evidence. It was your brain's oldest protection mechanism, running on the wrong threat. That is not a weakness. It is just biology that needed naming. Which of the three, shrinking the audience, the effective forecast audit, or the stealth launch protocol, are you actually going to use this week? Drop it below. Because here is what is true now that was not true 11 minutes ago. You are not someone who is waiting until the idea sounds impressive. You are someone who understands why you were waiting and has chosen to stop. That is not a small shift. That is the entire difference.